Hey guys, this is Roxann Smithers, your trusted 360 general counsel, and this is another note from my Legalpad. Today, we're going to be talking about legal tips for creative entrepreneurs. I know that most of the time you guys are delving deep into your creative process. You're really looking for ways to express yourselves, but you're also wanting to understand how you're able to monetize your talent and your craft. Part of that monetization is making sure that you're protecting yourselves legally. So, whether you're a graphic artist, a photographer, a designer, a brand manager, a content creator, or a performer, it's important that you mine the 4 C's of clarity. And we're going to talk about those today. So, those 4 C's of clarity are pricing, scope, intellectual property, and disputes. We want to make sure that you are addressing all 4 of those C's when you are dealing with your customers and your clients, and it'll really help you take your business to the next level. First, let's talk about clarity in your pricing. Obviously, you're in this for the artistic expression, but you're also looking to make sure that you are able to take that artistic expression and turn it into a viable business. In order to do that, you've got to mind the dollars and cents. So you need to be very clear with your customers how you're going to be paid for your artistic services. Are you going to offer a flat rate for those services? Are you going to be on some other time schedule, whether it's hourly, daily, weekly, monthly? Whether your compensation is going to be tied to your performance or tied to results that are coming from your performance. It's important to understand what you need and then match that with your customers' needs and what they're willing to pay for, and make sure that everyone is on the same page. You also want to make sure that you have clarified what are the penalties if you are not paid. What's the process for you to be paid? Are you going to get late fees? Are you going to be entitled to interest? Do you want some of that money up front to mobilize, to get supplies, to dedicate time to creating something for your customer or your client? Really understand what your business needs are and what your financial needs are, and make sure that is communicated clearly with your customer, your client, and that everyone is on board with your pricing. The next C of clarity that you want to have is around the scope. Talk about what is the expectation from your customer in terms of what you are going to deliver. Is this a piece of physical art that you're delivering for your customer or client? Are you actually going to be physically performing either live, or it's something that's going to be recorded and utilized at a future date? Are you helping to create something in conjunction with your client? Be very clear on what that scope looks like and what you're expected to deliver to your client. Then you want to talk about, to whatever extent, approvals. Will there be a drafting process? Will there be a workshopping process as you come to a final deliverable for your client? How much say will they have in any edits or changes you make to your creative creation? And then you want to make sure that you are very clear on the universe of that deliverable, and be mindful of any scope creep, as we like to call it, any expansions of what's being expected of you or reductions of what's being expected of you, so that you can then have a mechanism to increase your pricing if that scope expands, or protect yourself to have a minimum amount of compensation if the client decides to shrink that scope while you are in the midst of working on their project. The third point of clarity that you want to make sure you have in your engagement with your customers is around intellectual property. As a creative entrepreneur, one of the amazing and major things of value that you are developing or bringing into existence is your intellectual property. And that has value even beyond the initial transaction with your customer or client. So you want to be very clear on who's going to own the product of your creative effort. Will it be owned by the client or the customer? And are you going to condition that upon full payment? Then they will own it. Or will you retain some level of ownership and maybe license that to your customer or client? Will you be able to license what you create to other potential customers or clients and create some sort of reoccurring stream of revenue or income to yourself? Will you be able to utilize examples of what you've created for marketing purposes down the road or to include in your portfolio so that you're able to show examples of your work to additional potential clients? So it's very important to understand what intellectual property is being created as part of this project, who's going to own and control that intellectual property, benefit from it in the future, as well as be able to protect it legally, whether that's with a copyright, a trademark, or retaining that information as a trade secret. Then our last and fourth C of clarity is around disputes. Obviously, as an attorney, I have to think about what happens when things go wrong. As entrepreneurs and creatives, we're always looking at the bright side. We're always looking at the sun. The attorney's got to look for the rain clouds in the future. So you want to understand and have a process in place if there are disputes. What happens if your client or customer does not pay you in full? What happens if your client or customer provides you with materials that are actually owned by someone else, and now you've got an issue of infringing on someone else's intellectual property rights? If your client or customer is in a different state from you and you have a legal dispute, where will that dispute be resolved? And most importantly, if you have to spend money to resolve a dispute with your client or customer, will you be able to be reimbursed for those legal costs and expenses? Those are all the things that you want to think about when you're gaining clarity around dispute resolution. All right, those are the 4 C's of clarity that all creative entrepreneurs need to have in order to protect themselves legally. That's pricing, scope, intellectual property, and disputes. But I'm going to give you a fifth bonus C that is also important that creative entrepreneurs have, and that is the almighty written contract. We're always going to recommend that once you get clarity on those 4 areas, that you then memorialize that in a written agreement. It gives everybody an even playing field to understand the rights, responsibilities, and expectations in the relationship. It helps both you and your customers and clients to take you seriously, not only as an artist, but to take you seriously as a business person. And it commands respect for your talent and your craft. Always have a written contract that is signed by both parties. For more information and tips for entrepreneurs and business owners, you can find us at the Smithers Law Group at stulawgroup.com. You can also check out all the great contracts that we have for creative entrepreneurs at thecontractbank.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as Instagram. And this has been a note from my Legalpad.